My name is Dr. Michael Brown, and this is 3 Words, a bite-sized podcast about the significant and strategic choices that all of us can make in order to become the very best version of ourselves. But not just significant, not just strategic, but today we're going to talk about spontaneous choices as we dive into and dig deeper into strategies to create more spontaneity in your life. Listen in. So Justin, let's just jump into it. These 3 words for today, so unique.
Yeah, today's words are flip a coin.
Now, I'm guessing for our listeners and viewers, they're thinking, where are they going to go today? So take us there.
Yeah, so I believe that every moment matters, and I want to maximize my life. And as a result, I want to spend so much more of my time doing things instead of deciding what I'm going to do. So that's one part of this conversation, and this is why this resonates with me. Secondly, I want to have a life that is interesting, surprising, full of diverse experiences. And finally, I want to be the kind of person who has the discipline to back up the decisions that I make.
Wow, we could go so many different directions with this conversation, but what's resonating with me, even as you kind of kick this off, is we spend so much time overthinking. Mm-hmm. In fact, as I travel and speak and consult, oftentimes people are bringing to the surface different topics that they want to talk about with me. This is in the top 3. Yeah. How do I stop overthinking? But it sounds like this is part of our conversation. Mm-hmm. You're actually creating systems and strategies for yourself to kind of decrease the amount of decision making and ultimately less overthinking.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we have a DMB coaching newsletter, and in that, Dr. Tyler Schwanz, who writes the newsletter, he shared some of these statistics about the average human being makes 35,000 decisions a day, and that the average American couple spends 132 hours a year simply deciding what to eat. That's not even eating, it's deciding what to eat. Mm-hmm. And it's exhausting how many decisions we can possibly make in a given day, and how oftentimes it can paralyze us. We feel this urgency and desire that we want to make the perfect decision, and then it leads us to a place where we're taking way too long to make that decision. Sometimes we think way too much about things that don't matter, and often the opposite of we think way too little about the things that really matter the most.
I love that you just use that phrase, the perfect decision, because obviously there's no such thing. And that's part of the overthinking challenge, is that I'm always like, what if I make the wrong decision? But I'm guessing in this conversation around flipping a coin, and I want to hear more about, do you literally flip a coin to make a decision on where you're going to eat or what that looks like for you? But we're spending a lot of energy doing things in the pursuit of perfection. And it's always progress over perfection. And there's things that we want to be perfect at that really ultimately don't matter.
Yeah. And I think one of the other problems is when I'm making decisions, when I'm left to my own devices, when things are not randomized, when decisions are not made for me, sometimes I tend to make the same old decision over and over again. And it creates repetitiveness. It creates a redundancy. It creates a situation where my life can be somewhat mundane, where I'm not growing in the ways that I want to grow because I just keep on doing the same things over and over and over. We had a podcast episode, Shake Things Up, where we talked about, even with your workout rhythms, of what if you just started to do things differently and adjust the rhythm, or study in a different location. And I think that sometimes some of when we just make decisions, even if we make them quickly, sometimes they're going to be the same decision over and over. And there's not as much opportunity for growth in that.
So what does this look like for you? Like, what does this mean in your daily life to flip a coin?
Yeah, I think it all started back when I was probably in elementary school, when I started each day picking out what I was going to wear. And I discovered pretty quickly that I need to put 0 time into this if I just always wear what is on top of the pile. So, and people have given me a hard time throughout my life, but when you do the laundry and you hang things back up or you fold them, I put the things that I just washed at the back of the line on the hanger, and I put the things that I just folded at the bottom of the pile. And then with each day, I say, what am I going to wear? I grab whatever is on top, and I find a matching pair of pants, and I create an outfit around that. And it guarantees that I am wearing every single item in my wardrobe, and I spend so little energy or effort in making that decision because honestly, it doesn't really matter.
I'm going to pause right now in my conversation with Justin to encourage you to actually put into practice what we are talking about. Go to dmbcoaching.com/podcast/random, where you can at random choose one of our podcast episodes of the 200 plus to listen to. Now back to the conversation. Justin, I've been your father for decades, and I never knew that was actually a thing you did as a child.
Yep. Yeah. I still do it today.
So does Noelle like that?
She thinks it's goofy, and people will then ask, well, what if you don't like what's there? Then it's like, well, if I continually am like, I don't want to wear this thing that's on the top of the pile, take it off the pile.
Get rid of it.
You have complete control over what is in your list of possibilities and options for your life. So that's one example. In medical school, I discovered that one of the best ways for me to study was to try to not just study one topic and then move on to the next topic, but I would create note cards with all sorts of different topics and ideas, and I would shuffle them together. And it was the randomization of that studying process helped to guarantee that if I know what something is completely out of context, then I really know it. So that was one thing. Another thing that I recently, a couple more things that I've been doing recently are I've currently have 41 books on my bookshelf that I haven't read. And at the beginning of the year, it was 75, and I'm working my way down. But a lot of the time I would spend last year after I finish a book and I say, well, what book am I going to read next? And I would often really, really struggle to try to decide, I've got all these options. Which one am I going to read? And it would take me several days to say, which book am I feeling right now? And then I would end up reading a book that I thought that I was feeling like reading, but then 6 or 7 books in a row, it's like you're reading the same genre over and over because that's continued to be what you were kind of feeling. And as I have begun to randomize that process, I have my list of 41 books now on a list numbered 1 through 41. I go to Google, I type in random number generator, 1 to 41, and I push go, and it says, you're reading book 23 this week. And I'll pick up book number 23 and I'll read it, and I'll have the discipline to say, this is the book that I've decided that I'm reading. I don't get to take it back. I've decided that this is on the list and I'm going to read it. And then oftentimes it creates a situation where I feel like every book I read is fresh. It feels new. And I'm reading the types of books and genres that maybe I wouldn't have chosen for myself. But it helps me to make sure that I'm creating diverse experiences in my life. And I'm spending so much less effort on trying to decide what it is that I'm going to read now.
Now, I would presume there are probably decisions that you shouldn't be flipping a coin over.
Right.
And so you're using this, what is it called again? The
random number generator.
Random number generator on Google.
Yeah.
And you can pick a number from this to this, and it will just pick a number.
And it randomly picks a number.
Which it seems like so many of our decisions can be made that way. But you're not suggesting that we're making the most important decisions, career choices, spouse.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how we decide whether we're going to have kids. Maybe that's how we decide how we name our kids.
Sure.
Because oftentimes I talk to couples who are like, we've been spending months deciding on a name. Maybe we put the top 10 and say, anyway. But I think this is really good to begin to decrease the amount of overthinking and decision fatigue and actually focus our energies on things that most matter. So continue to have conversation with us.
Yeah. So some of the other things I've been doing recently are even with my workout rhythms that I would kind of, as I built my workout calendar, some days I would just kind of say, I kind of want to do what I feel like doing when I wake up at 6 a.m. to do my workout. And I'd find that I'm kind of always doing the same kind of easier workout or thing that is the thing that I'm good at or thing that I enjoy. But what I've started to do is I have a list on my phone of these are the 20 types of workouts that I can do. And there's a few repeats in there because I intentionally want to make sure that I'm maybe doing more cardio than more lifting or something, and I can adjust those as I'd like. But on that list of 20, every morning I wake up and I put in my random number generator and I say, wonder what workout I'm doing today. Oh, I guess it's leg day. I didn't really want to do leg day today, but here we go. And I then have to have the discipline to do that thing that I do not want to do. And it's great for me. It's good for my body, and it helps me to be healthy and fit in a variety of ways and not just the kind of way that I feel like doing.
Well, I'm really excited about this conversation, particularly because you keep bringing up the topic of discipline.
Yeah.
That oftentimes you are now doing things that aren't just randomized and aren't just creating diversity in your life, but are actually creating discipline.
Yeah.
Because there's some times where you're probably something's going to come to the surface and you're like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm deciding to do that. And I like that. I guess when we first started talking about this particular topic, I wasn't thinking that it would go down this path, but this does kind of strengthen the discipline muscle.
Yeah.
Because so often we're making decisions based upon our feelings and our emotions and what would be, quite honestly, easy on any particular day, which is probably why we're eating fast food and not food prepping, why we're not doing the hard workout, but the easy workout as you've described. And I like the fact that you're using this not only to diversify and to create more kind of surprises and spontaneity in your life, but also increasing your discipline.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited about this idea, and I'm passionate about it. And I started to think as I was preparing for this conversation about what are other things that I could randomize. What are other things that I could start to do differently, that I could automate a process and not just like make it so that I don't have to think as much about a decision, but start to incorporate decisions that I never would have chosen or thought to do for myself.
Share those.
Yeah. So I made this list of 15 other ideas of things that I, or maybe that our viewers could benefit from maybe automating or doing randomly or flipping a coin in their life. Friends to invite over for dinner. What would it look like if we had a list of 12 friends and we said, on a given Friday night, who are we going to hang out with tonight? Or who do we want to make sure that we invite over this month? That we put it in a random number generator and picked it. Then we're not inviting the same 3 people over, but that we are diversifying it. Family members to call on my drive home from work. People to pray for. I think I've prayed for the same people over and over, but there are some people that maybe if I add it to a list or create a list of here's 60 people in my life, and then I start to put it in a random number generator, and I make sure that I'm praying for all 60 of those people, perhaps even equally. Places to go for a date night. That's an easy one. I think a lot of people have a list of different restaurants or things that they can do, and it could diversify to make sure that you're doing something different. Topics to discuss with my therapist. I think I sometimes talk about the same things with my therapist, but what would it look like if I said, hey, I know sometimes you talk about these work stressors, but I want to really lean in there and talk about my relationship with my mom today. Recipes to cook. I've got a list of recipes that I enjoy, and sometimes I spend too much time thinking about what am I going to cook this week. I could put it in a random number generator, and it would help to make sure that I'm having a diversified diet. Podcasts or music to listen to. Fruits or veggies to buy. How many of us only eat the same 3 or 4 fruits or veggies? But there are so many more fruits or veggies in the produce aisle and so many more vitamins and antioxidants and minerals that we're missing that we could just say, yeah, I'm not normally a Brussels sprout guy, but here we go this week. Patients to reach out to just to check in. I thought about what would it look like if, I haven't seen a patient in a while and I just have a list of my 520 patients that I see in my office and I say, 341, let's see. I'm going to call this patient just for a cold call to say, hey, it's Dr. Brown. I just thought I'd check in to see how you're doing. I thought that'd be amazing.
That's awesome.
How cool would that be? Rooms of the house to clean. Sometimes I clean the room that I feel like cleaning. And it could help me to clean a room that maybe I don't feel like doing. House projects to start. How many house projects do I have on my mind at any given moment that maybe I'll start when I feel like doing it? But what if I woke up on a Saturday morning and said, well, I wonder which house project I'm doing today. And then it said, I guess you're deep cleaning all the bathrooms, or I guess you're going to start to paint this room that you talked about for ages. Smoothies, salads, or sandwiches to buy on a menu. I found that there are certain restaurants that I go to over and over and over during a given calendar week or a year. And I like to say, all right, this is the restaurant and I want to try every sandwich on this menu. So today I'm starting with number 1. And the next time I go to the restaurant, I'm going to go to number 2. And I don't have to then every time decide which one I'm feeling and keep eating the same thing, but I can, whether randomly or just one at a time, go through them and hit them all. Few more things to do on a Tuesday evening. Sometimes Noelle and I are in a season of life right now where our evening commitments, it seems like there aren't as many, and we can find ourselves kind of doing the same things on an evening, either watching TV or reading a book or something. But we could actually create a list of here are 20 ways that we could spend a Tuesday evening that are either productive or enjoyable or meaningful for our relationship, that we could put a little bit more spice into our life of our evenings. Places to take your kids on a Saturday. And then last one, children in the neighborhood to offer to babysit just because. We've got a few family friends and friends that we watch their kids from time to time, but what would it look like if we said, hey, we have no plans this particular Thursday night. Let's randomly select one of our friends to offer to just babysit their kids.
What great ideas. Justin, this is probably one of my favorite episodes. You and I have probably done well over a dozen episodes together here in the 3 Words Podcast studio, but I think this is one of my favorite, and this is why. Because I talk all the time about not just living, but being fully alive. And what you've described in our brief, 14 minutes together is actually using a creative flip the coin kind of idea to create spontaneity, to create energy, to encourage diversity within our lives that actually will allow us to make important decisions more thoughtfully, free up our mind for the most important things and people, and then also just have a lot more fun. Yeah. So thanks for the conversation.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
For many of you who are listeners and viewers of Three Words Podcast, we have a close and personal relationship, but for most of you, we don't know you all that well, and we would love to go deeper with you. So can we encourage you to go to dmbcoaching.com/subscribe, where you can actually subscribe to our monthly digital newsletter, where we can have more interaction, more connection, and more opportunity to provide resources, insights, and instructions for you in order to become the very best version of ourselves. See you in a couple of weeks.